Okay, guys. Good afternoon. I got my laptop here. I got a camera right in front of me. It's always nice to, look into your laptop right away. You see people already. Good evening. My name is Erik. It's March the 5th, 8 o'clock, Irish time, UK time, and we're going to be doing a webinar on ghosting tonight. I wasn't too familiar with the phrase coasting, so actually I had to look it up for myself. I'm just going to give you the definition in a second. Now, if you put yourself in my place, you'd be looking at a camera right now. So it's always nice to know, like, who are you talking to? Yeah. So while I do a little introduction about myself, why don't you guys just pop in the chat where you're from and why you're here tonight? Why did you come to this webinar? It'll be nice. I see some people already who have joined. So you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not Irish, I'm not English, I'm not American. I'm actually Dutch. I'm from Holland. Been abroad for more than 25 years, Caribbean, Latin America, various European countries. Right now, almost 2 years in Ireland. And got a background in engineering and a background in management and economics. So, but, you go through life and you're looking for certain answers, how you could be more productive, how you could find your true goals, how you could, enhance your capacities and your potentials. I've always found that a very, very interesting subject. Yeah, so basically I found something and I wanted to share some data with you tonight, which is about the mind and which is about the specific phenomenon of ghosting. Why do people all of a sudden leave? So let me greet you guys. Let me have a quick look in the chat. Who's there? Beatrice, I see your face already. So I assume you're in your living room at home. It's good to see you again. Lovely. Then we have Cecilia. Welcome. Dylan. Welcome. Helia. Welcome. Maria. Welcome. Michelle Mitchell. Welcome. Nico. Welcome. Oisin. I hope I pronounce that correctly. I suppose it's an Irish name, but I haven't learned my Irish enough yet. Mr. Patel, I assume Payal, welcome, and Robert Rowley. Okay, it's fantastic, guys. And I see that some of you even have turned the camera on. Beautiful. I love it. Okay, so now we got some faces too. Okay, it's always the ladies who are more courageous, right? I see the ladies in the screen. Beautiful. You guys are fantastic. So Michelle is from Northern Ireland. Cecilia is from here, I suppose. And Beatrice is from Belgium. Okay, fantastic. Well, let's get started. I'm very, very interested. That was actually my first question. Is like, you've probably experienced this ghosting phenomenon, which is basically a very, very new term for somebody who would abruptly end the communication with you. He would abruptly end the relationship with you. Yeah. So it's a bit of a funny phenomenon, right? I mean, funny is probably not the correct word, but you get my drift, I suppose. You're trying to build a relationship with somebody, and all of a sudden, that person is gone, and the communication is dead. Seems that you can't revive it. So, yeah, what's going on there? Okay, so a few more people. Robert from Alaska. Wow, that's amazing. So I suppose for you that's like somewhere early in the morning. You just had breakfast. I guess, right? Wild guess. All right, Nico from Romania. Okay, guys. So what I'm mostly interested, just to wrap it up, this introductory part. So has anybody been exposed to this ghosting phenomenon, and how did it affect you, right? Or are you just here to learn something new? That's also fine. But I'm very curious if anybody experienced this, and how did it affect you? So Beatrice, okay, felt terrible. Got that. Thank you for your answer, Beatrice. Okay, Michelle, badly affected by it emotionally, physically. Okay. Cecilia, disrespected. Thank you very much for your answer. All right. Good. So I'm gonna start. Now, here's the key. In any kind of human behavior, we're always dealing with a portion of the mind. Yeah. So if a person is lying, if a person is being dishonest, um, even if a person is, very, very competent, um, and showing competence, we're always dealing with the mind. Now, so I'm going to do a little mind drill with you to familiarize you guys with what is the mind. Well, it's quite interesting. First of all, if you speak to anybody trained in psychology, yeah, you get a very fascinating answer. And usually you get the answer that the mind has to do with the brain. And we're going to take a whole different approach here tonight. And we're going to look at some things and basically determine for ourselves, is this something physical that we're dealing with, or is it mental that we're dealing with? So a question for you, you don't have to put it in the chat, but a question for you is, can you remember primary school? Yeah, just wait for a second. Can you remember primary school? And can you, for example, can you remember the playground? Can you remember the courtyard? Yeah, my colleague is just adjusting the camera for a bit, so I'll be shaking. Yeah, so can you remember the playground? Can you remember the courtyard? And maybe if you think about it, you'll start seeing pictures. You start seeing pictures. You could actually see the playground, the courtyard. You could see its dimensions. You might see the fence around that playground. You might be able to see if it was a true fence, if it was wood, if it was metal. Maybe it was a bushy fence. That could be the case as well. You might get a picture of the floor of the playground. In my case, it was tiles, right? But you get a picture. So that is the first thing. Let me just admit somebody here. Good. Karina is coming in. So that's just the first exercise. Now that was just a warming up. We're gonna do something funny here right now, and of course I cannot see what you guys do, but let's imagine that you are in your favorite chair, in the living room, in the house where you grew up. Yeah. So let's imagine you're this little kid again, and you're in your chair, the chair where you would mostly sit, and you're in the house where you grew up. Okay. I just assume you have that picture. Now, what I want to do is that we're going to stretch out our arm. Nobody can see you because you're probably on your own there watching this webinar. What I want you to do is, from where you're sitting, have a look at where the TV would be, and then just point toward the TV from where you're sitting. So if I would remember my own living room, I had a TV a bit on my left, and it would be like approximately 3 to 4 meters away from me. I can look at it and I can see the size of the TV. It was one of those old ones which had which was not the thin one, but the deeper one. Good. So now if you have that, let's find a window, and from where you're sitting again, point to the window. Could be any window. So for example, I have one right in front of me, about 5 meters away. It's a fairly big window. Okay, now let's find a table. From where you're sitting, point to the table. Any table. I got one in front of me here. And maybe if you look at it, you can actually see the shape, the size, the height, the material, and the color of that table. Yeah, you probably get a picture here. Okay, now the final exercise. Let's find or locate the kitchen, wherever that is, up, down, front, left, behind you, and point to the kitchen from where you are. So for me, that would have been in my back. All right? Good. So what's the purpose of this drill? Let me show you. So here we have a body, okay? And here we have a mental image picture. So what you just looked at was a mental image picture. It says mental for a very, very good reason. Because mental doesn't say physical. Yeah? So you looked at a picture, that picture was not tangible. You know, you couldn't touch it. You could actually, from where you were sitting, you could experience where the TV would be. You could experience where the window would be, right? And they kind of like appeared again in your immediate space. Yeah. That is to say, you could think of the living room and kind of like in your mind recreate the entire room around you. It's kind of a fascinating thing, right? So what you see right away is that picture is three-dimensional. So you see, we're not talking about neurons here. We're talking about mental image pictures, right? And now, it would probably fascinate you to know that that picture is not in your brain. You say, well, but you know, Eric, everybody knows that it's in the brain. Well, maybe everybody knows that, but the truth of the matter here is that really true? Because that brain theory, it was basically adopted somewhere in the 1900s by psychologists in Vienna, in Austria. And it was simply assumed that that was the case, but there was no scientific proof for it. Now, the funny thing is this: you're looking at a picture, it's three-dimensional, and you're pointing about you, all right? You wouldn't say, well, the kitchen is in the back of my head, the TV is there somewhat between my temples and my left eye, the table would be more or less in the middle of my brain, the window would be slightly behind my ear. You wouldn't do that, right? You pointing about you. So there's something else going on here. Now let's have a look a bit further at the mind itself, and we find out it's just an accumulation of pictures. So if we would kind of like sketch it in time, yeah, it's like you could say we never stop recording pictures and making pictures. We just keep on continuing making pictures throughout time. Yeah, good. So now this is your body and this is your mind. Good. So your mind makes pictures. All right, now a final question here, of course, is, well, who or what is looking at these pictures, right? Well, if it's not your brain, then what is looking at these pictures? Well, we can be very brief about it, and we could just say, well, it's you. So I guess very interesting right now, because right now we could actually subdivide man into three parts: you, your body, and your mind. And instinctively, that feels quite all right. You would say, my body. You wouldn't say body like I. You would say my body. And you would say my thoughts. So I'm going to wrap this up a little bit. There's a lot to know about it, but at the end of tonight, I'm going to show you a book that will teach you more. Well, let's see how that mind works. Yeah, just a little example. Let's say I'm coming home and I have a set of keys, right? So I'm coming home, I have my keys, I put them somewhere, and I roam around the house, and I make food and start to work, and have some leisure time. At some point, look at my watch. I say, "Gosh, actually, I need to go out." So now I'm putting my hands in my pocket. I said, "Oh, where's my keys? And what do? You're not going to look in every corner of your house. You're not going to go through all the rooms in your house. You wouldn't do that. What would you do? Well, you simply look back at the moment that you arrived home. You get the picture. You look at the picture. We do this pretty unconsciously, but actually we do. You look at that picture. You say, oh yeah, it's true. I got home, and I came through the kitchen and must have dropped them on the cupboard. So you walk over there, and your mind will tell you exactly where you can find your keys again. That's how your mind works. Okay. Good. I see. I'm just scrolling through the messages. Thank you, guys. So I've got my next question for you. So now we looked at a picture of primary school, and we looked at a picture of your parents' house, yeah, the living room. Now, here's the question: Did looking at these pictures cause you any stress or any discomfort? Now, that's my question to you guys. So you are looking at your own pictures. Did that give you any stress or discomfort? Pop it in the chat, please. Just out of curiosity. Michelle, no. Victor, no. Robert, no. All right. We got 4 no's already. Good. Well, that's beautiful. So that means you could actually comfortably look at a great deal of your memories. You could comfortably look at a great deal of your mind. Okay, now I have a next question for you. Okay, Dylan, can you repeat that question? Yes, Dylan. My question was, so you looked at primary school, yeah, you looked at these memories, you looked at the living room, you looked at those memories. My question was, did that cause you any stress or discomfort? Right? Exactly. Okay, good. You got the question and I got your answer. Thank you very much. Good. Now, I got a next question for you. Yeah? Did you ever go to a job interview, or did you ever have to do a presentation in front of a group of people, or did you have to go to, let's say, a dentist or a doctor, and you did feel stress or discomfort? Yeah? Has that happened? You know, so have you ever been in those kind of circumstances where we had to do a presentation, maybe in front of a classroom, or maybe something like a job interview, or it could be dentist or doctor, where you actually felt very stressed or nervous? Yeah, pop that in the chat, please. Okay. Okay, Victor. Thank you for being brave. I thought it was the ladies that were the bravest ones. Okay. Payal, yes. All right. Yeah. So I have 2 gentlemen here who responded. I don't see the ladies yet, so I think the ladies are still the bravest ones. Maybe it didn't occur to you, ladies. Ah, it did happen to Michelle. Good. All right. Yeah. So I'll just repeat my question. Yeah. So did it ever occur to you that you were in a circumstance like you had to do a presentation for a group of people, or you had to go to a job interview, maybe an exam, right, doctor's visit, and you felt stressed? Yeah. So now I could go on and on and on and on with questions, but if I would ask you, did you want to feel stressed? Did you want to feel nervous? Did you want to experience that discomfort? You'd probably say no, right? I guess I don't have to ask that question. But what is that? That actually means that there's something there there is something there that controls you that you cannot shake. It's simply, there's something there that puts you under stress that you cannot seem to shake. There's something there, it definitely controls you, but you don't control it. All right? So there is another part of the mind, we could call this analytical mind. So you have your analytical mind that analyzes data, it finds your keys, as in the example, right? And you can just retrieve all these pictures and information very, very comfortably. Now, there is another part of your mind which is out of sight. You don't have it inside, but actually it does the same very thing. It also makes pictures. So, and basically it contains all the bad experiences. And when I'm talking about bad experiences, I mean experiences such as, for example, a moment of shock, a traumatic moment, a painful moment. Well, shock, traumatic, that sounds quite dramatic, yeah. But if you're in a hospital and if you're under surgery, under full anesthesia, you can count on it. That is quite a shock for your body, and it's quite traumatic for the cells. Yeah. So there's more to that, but I'm just going to leave it with that, because that would be this part would be a whole different type of webinar. Now, what does this type of the mind do? It kind of like it makes you do things, or it prevents you from doing things. Yeah, so you kind of like get a compulsion, just like a person who steals, like a kleptomaniac. He kind of like just has to put it in his pocket. And it's it's the type of mind that controls the person much more than he controls it. Yeah, but it can likewise, it can impulse you to do things. It can also keep you away from things that you would actually like to do. So I have another question for you. Yeah. So think with me and see how that relates. So can you think of something? Can you think of something that you really wanted to do, but then something held you back and you felt that you couldn't do it? I'll give you a clear example. When I was younger, I would go to the disco. I would see a nice lady, or see a nice girl my age, and I would feel like, oh my God, I would just love to talk to her. But I felt I couldn't. I had to drink more beer before I could make that move, right? Simple example, yeah? So did you, let me read this aloud here for you. So can you think of something you really wanted to do, or maybe something you really wanted to accomplish, but then something held you back and you didn't do it? Let me know, guys. Okay, good. Yeah, that makes sense, right? That makes sense. Okay, now likewise, we're gonna turn this. Thank you guys for your answers. We're gonna turn this one around. Yeah. Can you think of something that you really didn't want to do, but then you did it anyway, and you regretted it? Yeah. So can you think of something that you didn't want to do, you knew better, you shouldn't do it, but you did it anyway, and then you regretted it? Can you think of something like that? You could think with that, right? Good. So thank you for your answers, guys. So Robert, we need to chat. I'm going to give you my telephone number in the end. Yeah. I'm just giving you these questions so you can see that there's something there which is an undesirable type of control. there's definitely something that's holding you back, right? And that something that's holding you back, it manifests as a kind of like a type of behavior that you don't want from yourself, right? That means other people, of course, have that as well. Good. So now I'm going to give you an example of how this would actually work in daily life. I'm going to give you an example of a couple, Joe and Jane. Let's take Joe and Jane. So here we have Joe and Jane, and Joe and Jane, they're very much in love with each other. All right. They've been together for quite a while. Now, Joe is going to go to a bachelor party, and he's going to go with some friends. And he told Jane he's probably going to be back home shortly after midnight, maybe like 1 o'clock or so. So then Joe is going to go out with his friends. And he's got a very, very cozy time, right? But at some point, he sees his he sees the lady or the girl that he had a crush on when let's say when he was in high school, right? And so now they still know each other, and they walk over and they say hi to each other, and they start having a conversation. Well, that conversation gets very, very cozy, and he admits to the fact that he actually always had a crush on her. What he didn't know was that she also had a crush on him. So now they tell each other that they liked each other very much, and it gets a bit more cozy. So they have a dance together, and they recall some beautiful moments from the past, and so they start to get very, very close. And Joe realizes, damn, it's already 3 o'clock. I was supposed to be home. So he says to the lady, you know what? I better go. And she says, oh, but I'm not going to see you again for a while, am I? Can I get a kiss? And Joe thinks, he doesn't think with the whole thing, he thinks it's totally fine to do this. So they kiss and they say goodbye. All right? So now here's Joe. And of course he's making pictures of all that, right? He's making pictures of all this. He's making pictures of the whole happening. However, he knows that there's something there that probably he shouldn't have done. And these pictures now, they have some negativity connected to it. All right, so Joe actually, he gets home 4 o'clock in the morning. So there's Jane, she's already in bed. And so Joe hopes that Jane doesn't notice anything, that she's already asleep. And he just hopes for the best, that he can just kind of like sneak into the bed and tuck himself in and simply go to sleep, right? So he puts himself in bed. And then Jane says, Joe, why are you so late? All right. So Joe, of course, his mind is instantly triggered, right? His mind is instantly triggered at that very moment. All right, good. So I have a question for you guys. My question is, does Joe really want to answer that question? Does he really want to answer that question? Honey, why are you so late? Or will he try to avoid that question? Okay, all right. No, he doesn't want to, right, Emils? Yeah, okay. Beatrice says he'll try to avoid that question or even lie about it. And I think that's spot on. Anybody else? Yeah, so does he, we have some more people. So does he want to answer that question, Joe, why are you so late? Or will he try to avoid it? Anybody else? Or are we good? Okay, so I guess try to avoid it, right? Cecilia, thank you very much. Okay, beautiful. Spela, avoid it. Yeah, exactly. Good. Okay, so now there's something going on, obviously, with the communication now. Yeah. If we would look when something like that happens, or any other incident, something similar, when something like that happens, does Joe want to communicate more or less to Jane? So now, Joe did something that he actually might regret, but what is going to be the result of this? Does he want to, as of that moment, does he want to communicate more to Jane, or does he want to communicate less to Jane? Okay, Emils, you're already there again. Definitely less. Okay, Cecilia, less. All right, I got you. Okay, so you can imagine, let's say he's avoiding the answer. And let's say he gets away with that. Now, let's say 2 days later, Jane, his wife or girlfriend, says, Joe, my sister saw you in town. So he's going to freak out now, right? He's going to freak out. Like, does she know? Doesn't she know? And that doesn't really invite to have more communication. There is something there that he would rather not talk about. Okay, so now we're going to get into a subject that we would call a moral code. So, in a moral code, it's not really, really existing any longer in the Western world very much. It's just something that we would consider morally right, morally wrong, right? We would say a moral code is simply an agreement about what's right and about what's wrong. Okay. Now, when you meet a partner, very often you probably don't have conversations about this. but your partner might say, well, I hate liars, right? He's trying to tell you, don't lie to me. He said, well, you know, somebody who lies, that is a conflict with my moral code. And you as a woman, you might say, well, I hate cheaters. I hate cheaters. If that happens, that's the end of the line, right? So, but apart from that, you probably don't have many discussions about, you know, what do you think is right and what do you think is wrong? Now, I have a question here in this case, yeah, in general. What do you think would, in this example, and just have a look at Joe, because Joe, he doesn't feel too good about it. Do you think that Joe and Jane had some kind of a moral code? Did they have some kind of an agreement together? And I'm curious about you guys. What could that agreement have been? Yeah. So what agreement could they have had together? Out of curiosity, I'm gonna zip on my ginger tea and look for your answers. Yeah. So what kind of moral code, what kind of thing would they have agreed to in their relationship with regards to what will be right and what will be wrong? I like that one. And good and bad together. Okay. Perhaps honesty, trust, open communication. All right. You're my boyfriend. I'm your girlfriend. So there's no cheating on each other. Nice. Good. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. So that could have been, yeah, that could have been some kind of a moral code, right? Um, and I guess the most common ones are like people expect from each other that they're being honest, right? So the moral code would be to be honest and not to be dishonest. It would be something like, okay, well, you know, we're not doing lying here. Also, we want to be faithful to one another, and we don't want to we don't want to cheat on one another. Yeah, but here's the funny thing: in the previous example, you could see that there was something there that might control you, right, and that might impulse you to do something funny. Okay, now we're gonna call this incident a, you could say it's a transgression, right? Yeah. Joe, he was clearly aware that he did something that he wouldn't like to have happen to himself, right? So moral code also includes that. Yeah, it's something like, I wouldn't like it if my girlfriend would cheat on me. Therefore, I shouldn't do that to her, right? That would be the agreement. Now that transgression, we're gonna give that a name. Let me just wipe out something. So you could say that this situation here harmed their relationship, right? It harmed their relationship because right now, Joe, he's got something on his chest, and that's something that he doesn't feel good about it. So that was a harmful act. He doesn't feel good about it, and it's harmful to his relationship, but it might also be harmful to her relationship, right? It doesn't really work out at both ends. And we would call something like that an overt. And an overt is simply a harmful act. It is an act that is harmful to any living being or to a property, for instance. And so let's say you're crossing the street and you're scratching somebody's car, and you're damaging the value of that car. Yeah? That could be considered a harmful act. It could be considered an overt. Just another word. That's an overt. Now at work, you might come late. And then once again, you feel like, oh, that's not something that you want to bring to the table. But it might feel to you as if you just committed an overt. You just committed an harmful act, right? Well, you might have, at the end of the day, you might have the idea that you earned a nice sum of money for your presence at work. But when you look at it, you say like, oh, I only sent 2 emails, but I got €100 paid. And so now you might actually get the consideration that you kind of like committed an overt or a harmful act by not doing enough, right? All these possibilities exist. It's simply something, let's say you had a company and you would employ somebody. You say, gosh, this guy cost me €150, including taxes, and he wrote 2 emails. You probably wouldn't want that happen to you. Yeah. So likewise, if you feel like, I don't want this to have happening to me, it feels like you committed a harmful act. Cool? Okay. Now, we're going to go to a very interesting part. When somebody feels that he has just committed something harmful to somebody else, then now he feels he cannot talk about that. So Joe, he's got this experience. He's got that experience. And he doesn't really want to talk about it. He feels actually that he cannot talk about it. So Joe gets back home. Jane is asking, Joe, why are you so late? Now Joe feels that he cannot tell Jane the truth. He simply can't. Now, here's my question to you. Why do you feel that Joe cannot talk about this? What would be the reason for him to just feel that he couldn't say that? Why would that happen? Pop it in the chat. He's got that experience. His wife is asking him, Joe, why are you so late? And he feels he cannot talk about it. Why is that? Okay, because he's damaging the relationship. A conflict will occur because he knows he broke the code. Okay, thank you guys. Anybody else? All right, everybody at the edge of the chair? Yeah, I guess everybody wants to know the answer. All right, so here he committed a harmful act, right? Now, he considers that when he would tell Jane about what happened, he would commit another harmful act. He would commit another harmful act, and he feels that he would now harm her. So you can actually see that a being, a person, is natively good because he will actually try to protect the other person from harm. He's trying to protect Jane from harm, from becoming very emotional. And he says, well, I couldn't possibly tell her because it would make her sick, or it would make her devastated, or it would make her whatever. But he considers it's another harmful act if I tell this. Good. So that means he is sitting on a withhold. What that means is basically he is withholding the information. He's keeping it to himself. He's keeping it to himself. And he cannot share this with Jane. All right? He's simply withholding communication. Now, that withholding the communication goes back to what we see below. The person will start to communicate less because there's simply things that he feels he cannot talk about. So what you get as a result of withholding is that the person who's withholding, he stops to communicate to the person that he has harmed. And he moves away from the area where he was active before. Yeah? So everything was nice and dandy. He committed one simple overt. That one simple overt led to less communication. Now, it doesn't always take just one overt or one harmful act. It could just be that it kind of like accumulates in his mind, and he has several moments. Yeah. So now the person is just sitting on withholds. He's sitting on these things that he's keeping to himself. And every time that happens, he puts himself more out of communication. And eventually, he simply totally withdraws from communication. So now, as a result, here, you may actually get that sudden departure. The person came, everything was great, and all of a sudden, the person was gone. Now, you might ask me, yeah, but Erik, I don't think anything happened in our relationship. Okay, well, but maybe he had already accumulated a bunch of those withholds before, right? Now you come into his life, and the whole pattern just continues. So, in an effort to kind of like protect himself and protect you, the person simply disappears. This happens in, for example, this happens in offices, this happens in workplaces, and this happens in relationships. Good. Now, let me see what's the time. Oh, it's not too bad. So at the very beginning, at the very start, I should say, not the beginning, that was a long time ago. At the very start tonight, I asked, so who has experienced this ghosting and how did it affect you? Yeah, so I'm going to ask you the question again. Who has experienced ghosting and how did it affect you? I think I had some answers already. I'm just curious if anybody else wants to add to it, have some more answers. Okay, thank you, Spela, Emils, Beatrice. Okay, thank you. Cecilia, all right, I felt it was me, that I did something wrong. That's a very interesting one, Cecilia. Now, what we put here on the board tonight, did that clear up a couple of things for you? Okay, that's great. Okay, can you see the pattern? Right. Now, there's more information to this because, for example, when a person commits an overt, when a person has done a harmful act, he usually starts to become a little bit critical. And that criticism can actually grow. And it's basically just an effort to shut you up. And is the only remedy that the person has to kind of like balance himself with you. He's done something wrong, you know, but now he's going to find fault with you as well in order to balance the whole thing. So he's going to be critical, right? Now, so basically, it had some profound impact on some people, right? So it could actually lead to like having a lack of trust in people, right? Obviously, you know, if people do nasty things to you, you can start to trust them less. But the moment you start to trust people less, that of course adversely affects you again in your relationships. Something like this, it might have actually had an impact on your on your confidence, right? Might have actually put more doubt in you. You could have become very, very emotional. You could have been sad about this. You could have felt like, okay, this was a severe loss, or you could feel like, okay, this is never going to happen to me again. So all these feelings can actually start, right? So thank you very much for the answers that you guys gave in the very beginning or the very start, also right now. But let's just imagine that these things linger, and these feelings of insecurity, of self-doubt, lack of trust, that these feelings linger for the next 10 years. Yeah. How would that be? And probably that wouldn't be so good, right? You probably wouldn't want that to happen. So, yeah, thank you, Spela. I get you. So now, how would it be if you could actually regain your confidence? If you could actually regain your security? If you could be more certain? How would it be if you could simply find out or get some tools to help you to really know who you can trust and who you can't trust? Well, I can tell you these tools actually exist. They're quite simple to learn. Basically, in pretty much half an hour, you could be pretty certain if you could trust the person or not with half an hour to an hour of observation and conversation. Maybe you're also interested in finding out how you could build better relationships. So I see a number of you guys are new, but basically we have a bit of a tradition. Every Tuesday evening after the webinar, we offer people something to read. And in this case, it's a book by L. Ron Hubbard. It's called A New Slant on Life. The book is about 15 chapters. And it's a book that will give you like life hacks or life tools. You'll get tools to find your direction in life. You get tools to find out what will be the optimum decision in any given circumstance. You have tools for knowing who you can trust, improving relationships, be better organized, be more effective in life. But most of all, remember at the very start, we had the body, the mind, and you. There are tools to kind of like clean up the bad experiences in the mind, and there's definitely tools that will help you to boost your confidence and your competence. Yeah. So you'll find that in the book. The book is normally 17 euros. And what you get tonight is that you actually get a gift. Next to the book, you're going to get another book on integrity and honesty. I actually gave you a snippet of information coming from that. Now, maybe you're aware of the fact like, hey, you know what? Actually, I've done a couple of things myself, and I would like to remedy that. So in here, you'll find how you can remedy that for yourself. But maybe you say, hey, but I have a son, I have a family member who is very, very critical. And that's not really nice to be around with. And this person is looking for a way out, for a solution. And I might be interested in helping somebody else. Yeah. So you actually find tools to end that kind of like dwindling spiral of the person going down, and actually help that person come up again and come clean. Yeah. It's a very, very light method. It doesn't require you to be courageous, audacious, step forward to the person that you felt you have harmed. It's a very, very simple way to come clean and regain your vitality and abilities. So that's what I wanted to offer you tonight. I got this for both together for 17 euros, including shipping. My colleague Dita has just put the link for that in the chat. So in new slant, yeah, it's like a new look. It's like a fresh look, a new view, yeah, of taking it from a different angle. So it's looking at life from a different angle. So the link is in the chat. It's for anybody who's interested to improve life. Yeah, it has helped me tremendously, without a doubt. But okay, I guess you can get something out of that stuff already. There's some value in knowing these things. So I'm going to shut up just for a minute. I'll let you click the link and have a look. And then Spela, I'm going to get back to you in a minute. Have a look at the link, guys. It might interest you. If it's not for you, that's also fine. Okay, cool. So, Spela, once more, how does it refer to critical people around you? So here's the thing, and this is pretty much going hand in glove. Yeah, they happen simultaneously. A person commits a harmful act. It could be very simply, for example, that he didn't do a proper job at work. He didn't do a proper job at work. Before that, you never heard him really complain about work. Now, some complaints are very legitimate. Yeah, some complaints are very legitimate. However, if you feel there's some nasty criticism, then you could actually count on the fact that the person is revealing to you that he had committed a harmful act. So now all of a sudden you hear, he's gonna make some comment on the manager, for example, right? Or he's gonna make some comment about the opening hours of the office. He's just gonna make some bad remark, right? That it's kind of fresh to you, or maybe sounds a bit, maybe it sounds a bit inflated. It's presented way bigger than it should be. And if you kind of like sense that, if you feel that, then the person is basically telling you he just committed an harmful act. Yeah. If you would be very trained in communication, you could ask the person, "What have you done?" And you just keep on asking that, and you insist, "What have you done?" Until you actually pull it, until you actually pull what the person did. Okay, so thank you. Oh, you bought the book already. That's great. Yeah, and it's true. It's a great book. I can actually give you a little bit of an insight what you find in the book. So, would you like to know why a person becomes unhappy? How can you remedy that? That's on page 10. Here's an interesting one. What are a few capabilities and potentials that you have, but which are in a state of forgetfulness? So you have certain capabilities, you have certain potentials, right? Maybe you heard Albert Einstein, who once said you might only use 10% of your capabilities or potentials. So what are a few of those that you actually have, you do have, but which are in a state of forgetfulness? Now here's an interesting one, and you'll find that on page 75. There's a new chapter. It's how do you restore a person's full potential? Now, who wouldn't want to know that? How do you restore a person's full potential? You'll find it on page 75. How do you improve relationships? That chapter is on page 91. What are the 12 characteristics of an antisocial personality? 193. I could go on, but I would just invite you, if you want some improvement right now in your life, yeah, do some reading, get some tools, and that book is definitely recommended. I'm hanging around a few more minutes for anybody who still has any questions. We hit the clock already of 9 o'clock. I want to thank you all very much. You guys here on Zoom, everybody on Facebook, everybody on Instagram, everybody on from Alaska, before I forgot, anybody on what is it? Well, all the social media, right? So if you have some questions, I'll be lingering around. Otherwise, I would say, guys, it's been fantastic having you tonight. I hope you come back every week. We do a webinar. It's always a fresh and new topic. This one I never did before. Ghosting. Like I said, I was not even familiar with the term. But the phenomenon itself is quite easily explained. Obviously, we could go deeper into the subject, but yeah, we just had an hour, and we had to do with that. I hope you learned something about the mind. If you want to know more about the mind, get the book. And so if there's no more questions, we can end off. If you have a question, pop it in the chat. It's all right with me, and I'll stay another minute or another few minutes, whatever you want. Now, before I forget, that is one thing. Maybe you want to have a one-on-one talk. That's totally fine. I love it. I like to make friends. I'm going to give my card quickly with my number quickly to Dita, and she can pop the number in the chat. So my WhatsApp number is going to appear in a moment. If anybody says like, Erik, can I speak to you personally because I got this and this situation? Yeah, that's fine. My number is going to appear, and then we can WhatsApp and have a chat. Cool. There it is, an Irish number. I'll leave that with you for a second. Spela, thank you for your participation. You're most welcome. Okay, guys. So, hope to see you again next week. And thank you very much for participating. Have a great rest of your evening. See you another time. Bye.